Does self-improvement feel like a never-ending uphill battle? What if the way we're approaching it is actually holding us back and making it harder? After listening to this episode, your idea of self-improvement will be transformed and you'll actually feel more confident about becoming your best you because it's a lot easier than you think. Why do I know this? Because while I achieved several standard forms of achievement, like becoming valedictorian, becoming a regional tennis champion, all while sleeping an average of 8 hours a night, then going to Caltech where I studied chemical engineering and got a 4.0 GPA, then got a business management consulting job, which is relatively competitive and prestigious. During all of this, I never even heard of self-improvement advice, nor used it. And at the same time, I made real progress while being healthy, having a social life, and just living a good life. And so that's what I'm going to reveal with you today, the approach that I took. Hi, it's Amy. Today's episode of Your A+ Life will be a little different and special because it's actually a voice memo that I recorded spontaneously because I had so many thoughts swirling around about why I believe I was able to naturally self-improve and excel in many areas while being sustainably healthy and still having a social life, all that good stuff. I usually record these voice memos to myself as future reference for videos, but I thought this voice memo was just so candid and valuable as well, which is why I decided to put it into a podcast episode. But be warned that the audio quality is not going to be as great as when I use a mic. I did try to speak directly into my phone, but regardless, I think the value is still there, which is why I'm so eager to put this up on this podcast, even though the audio sounds a little different. Since it was a voice memo, I only have the audio recorded into my phone, so I don't have like the visual video of me speaking. I'll probably overlay some nice picture or video just so something is playing, but I know many of you listen to podcasts not looking at the video anyway, so I think that will work. Before we get started, happy almost Lunar New Year, or happy Lunar New Year depending on when you're listening to this. It is the year of the snake, and the snake represents change and wisdom, so the perfect theme for today's episode and basically everything we try to encompass on this podcast. I personally am the year of the tiger. I love to know what your zodiac animal is, and you should leave that in the comments to let me know. Plus, if you look up your animal online, you can see what traits it represents. So, kind of like your star sign, it's pretty fun to see whether it's accurate. Finally, before we get started, remember to check out the links in my description. It includes my free 7-day guide to become more successful than ever, which includes how to beat procrastination, how to think about self-doubt, how to make the right friends, and how to master time management. I packed so much into that newsletter and it's completely free. So I really hope that you find it useful, make my efforts all worth it. I already have a few people respond to my newsletter saying it's one of the best things they've ever read. And after reading like the procrastination email, they started working immediately and they've been super productive ever since. Without further ado, here is Voice Memo Amy. We live in a society where we love labels and names and niches and categories. And why? Because it's easy. It's easy to say a word to have some kind of connotation or image come to mind, because in this fast-paced world of the internet, we need a single word or something short to convey something. And I think that it creates a lot of problems, and one of these categories is self-improvement. And this is like a word and term that actually I believe is so contradictory, and it's not very positive at all actually, because it inherently implies that there's something to be improved about yourself, that if you are on this journey of self-improvement, it's never ending, which means you're never good enough. And this is what also people profit off of, right? Companies and certain creators, they're probably mostly well-intentioned creators at least, but there's a reason why this kind of allures people, because people have to keep coming back. And that's why there was toxic productivity, but I think there's also toxic self-improvement, because the term in and of itself and the connotation and the way to think about it is toxic. And that's why I think words are so important, where we unpack the meaning, because when we use words to convey ourselves, that can inform our approach and our mindset toward things to either be conducive to positive progress and growth or not. And so I think right now a lot of meaning is lost behind words and value behind words. Like we don't say things with conviction anymore. We say, oh, we're going to put our phone away after 5 minutes. We're like, oh, whatever. It's just something I said to myself so I can not keep that promise. Also, when we say things like brain rot or scrolling our life away, mindless scrolling, like these are horrible words, like including waste our time. And I hate the word waste. I hate wasting anything. I'm a hoarder and probably on the opposite like extreme of that. But my point is I just really think strongly and feel strongly about the words. And who are we without our words? Because we are humans, we communicate. That's our value, right? Well, not that's our value, but that's like how we're different from animals. And so even though words cannot convey exactly, I think, all the things in our mind, it's after all just a singular, vocal version of the complexity in our minds. I think it is still very important to use them well. And so something I've come to realize is like, wow, we are spending so much time and effort, thinking, oh, we're on this journey of self-improvement. I'm starting my journey of self-improvement and being like, oh, I consume self-improvement content. But this kind of concept and category didn't really exist. It's just something made up because as a teenager, I was certainly doing pretty well by quote unquote now the current society's self-improvement standards, but I never watched that kind of content. Like back in the day, I was learning about how to do Asian makeup from denim and fashion, and I was learning about the Shamuhoo by Ryan Higa. So I did not have self-improvement at the forefront of my mind at all. I didn't even know it was a thing. Honestly, I don't even think it was a thing back then. Oh gosh, I sound so old now. But my point is, we are inherently growing as we gain experience and go through our journey of life and getting older. So what we need to do is know that we are automatically growing. We're automatically on self-growth. It's not something we necessarily have to go out of our way to do, like self-improvement implies, because a lot of the self-improvement, in fact, about, waking up early, drinking water first thing in the morning, like I've been doing that ever since I was born because that's what we're taught. It's like healthy, right? I think these health habits should be the default. That's simply living and being a human, right? It's not self-improvement. I truly believe that another helpful way to think about it is to equate self-love with self-growth, with self-care, with wellness, because part of caring for yourself is trying to reach your potential and see what your limit is. Because aren't you curious about that? Like in your lifetime, like what can you do? And the world is so beautiful and there are opportunities in front of us, regardless of who we are. And like, how can we make the most of it? And how can we make the time that we were given on this earth? It also goes with self-love, because I think it's truly an act of love to understand your potential. And just like you would love your future kid, right? Like you would do anything in your power to get them to find their passion and to grow in certain hobbies and find their place in the world and where they feel most fulfilled and have a purpose. So that's why I think this is a much better way to think about it. And I think that's how like I subconsciously thought about it. Not that I use those words explicitly, but it's just like that's what I truly believe in, and that's like kind of how I did things automatically and accidentally. I love accidentally achieving things, I suppose. Growth also has a much better connotation than improvement. I'm going to be honest, I could not find the words to explain this well, so ChatGPT helped me out here. I find that often AI is a great tool for someone like me who has like so many complicated thoughts swirling in my head, but no vocabulary, or just not being smart enough to articulate exactly what I'm trying to say. But growth is more holistic, whereas improvement sounds corrective, like it's implying fixing something that's lacking or broken, which means critical or focus on deficits. And growth is more natural. It's an expansive process that encompasses all areas of life or work, and it feels organic, like you're building a solid foundation. See, this is why I love ChatGPT sometimes, because this exactly relates to what I came up in from my own head, which is what I said earlier about it being natural and you're automatically growing as you go about your days, right? And so that's also why I think it's so important to just convert your time into living. When you go on your phone, you're like doing a combination of like pausing time while aging yourself, because you're not gaining a single thing within that time you're mindless scrolling. Like, how many reels or TikToks or shorts are you really remembering? Whereas that time is completely gone, right? And so in that moment, you are not growing. And so I think like the one key thing to ensure that you are self-growing and giving yourself self-love, honestly, is to find alternative ways of entertaining yourself that truly make you feel more refreshed and that potentially just give you new and interesting experiences, like, learning an instrument or drawing a picture, writing a story, journaling, just doing something with the gift of life that the universe has given you, because you are a human. And I think it is really beautiful to be able to contribute to this fabric of mankind. Wow, that sounds so like, what is it? I don't know. It got kind of lofty. Is that the right word? Or deep? Yeah, I think words are important. Sometimes I just can't find the right one. So forgive me if that did not have the right meaning. Sometimes I use words that I kind of know what they mean, but I never really learned the definition. I just use context clues, and then I might use it in a wrong way. So always feel free to correct me. This point about accidentally achieving things also relates to what I realized today about goals. Because I was so confused. I was like, what is it about me and goals? Like, why do I just not really set goals? But then the goals I do write down, they're more like pipe dream, just like put it down and forget about it. And then the things I say I will do this year, I just think of them as things I will do this year. I don't think of them as goals, because goals, this is also another thing I think is helpful for how to think about things, because goals is now so overused as like part of self-improvement. And so goals, it's kind of like, a soccer goal. You can kick the ball, you can get it in, you can not get it in, but it depends. And there's some chancing related to it. And so I think this connotation makes it so like, I have this goal of, losing 10 pounds this year. Or like, I have this goal of sleeping 8 hours a night. And, I have this goal of reading a book for 10 minutes each day. And we say it with the word goal. And so goal kind of already gives us this like subconscious feeling that, hey, it's okay if I don't meet it because it's just a goal, right? I don't know, maybe that's just me, but that's the way I feel about it, and why actually the goals, quote unquote, that I write down, like, attending the Met Gala, that's like literally a pipe dream. Like, why would a study and productivity creator see these labels again, even though technically I feel like I'm different from just like study tuber or productivity creator, more like life optimizer or whatever. Like, these things I write down as goals are more like things like, maybe I won't achieve it, but I'll write it down because it sounds nice and the visualization gets me kind of excited. Then on the other hand, like this year, it's like January 9th, I have the quote unquote goal, but it's not really a goal, of filming kind of a dance cover, just like kind of show my progress of self-learning how to dance choreographies over the past few years. But to me, it's not really a goal. It's more like, I'm going to do it. It's something that I'm definitely going to do in 2025. And that's kind of the way I thought about other things too. It's like, I never had the goal of getting straight A's. I just knew that was the default. Like, I'm going to get straight A's no matter what. It's just a matter of figuring it out and how to do it. Not really a matter of if. So I think that's also a helpful way to think of saying what we'll do with conviction rather than kind of like a loose term of goals. And I think goals did used to have more meaning behind it, but I think as the years go by, ironically, the more we think about, the more emphasis we place on self-improvement, I feel like the more I see out there that we're actually falling short of most everything we say we want to do. But maybe I'm just, that's my idealistic head talking. Just maybe I didn't know what it was like before social media made this so visible, so apparent. Oh, and I forgot one more thing. That was a shower thought. I try to remember all these thoughts when I have the waterfall of them into my brain in the shower, so I can document them when I get out. But what I was saying earlier about using labels and convincing people of things they need, like they need to self-improve, right? That's like something extra you have to do rather than just naturally grow and gain experience and reflect and iterate. People, like companies and creators, create this need because that's what gets people to come back and to continually learn, or I don't even know, what do people do? They just continually get maybe like dopamine boosts, or like repeat the feelings that they will do something because they feel like they need it when they watch like self-improvement tips videos, because when you create this need and people feel like that's what they need, then they will come back and they will buy things, because like, why would you buy something if you don't need it, or like feel like you want it because it will fill this need. So I think that's why I hope we can get back to this genuine way of creating, where we share stories and lessons and ways of thinking that inspire people more so, because I personally find like pure tips videos really boring, and I really like listening to the personal approach of like how people do things and like the actual like way that people do things, rather than just wake up at 6 a.m. Like, I want you to tell me like, oh, how did you decide 6 a.m. and like, what has this done for you? What do you do at 6 a.m. and things like that, and like why is that better than 7 a.m.? I just want more concreteness in like these stories. And that's why it was an interesting question. My friend Taiki asked me, what do you think makes a good piece of advice? And I think that's something that is kind of like inside you already, but you hear it and you're like, oh, so that affirms the way I was thinking, or that kind of brings up something that I already knew and understood deep down, but maybe I just couldn't put it into words. And so that's a great reminder that affirms me to do, and it empowers me to live up to my potential, or to really stick by what I believe. Because sometimes I think things and then I have some self-doubt, like, oh, is this really valid or true or whatever? But if it works for me, it works for me. But what helps is like when I hear a piece of advice that's like, oh yeah, that's kind of what I thought too, and then that makes me more empowered to follow through with that piece of advice that like I kind of already had within me, but it was spoken verbally by someone else. Gosh, I think I just set myself up for the trouble of, in the future, anytime I say the word self-improvement, because of the way I harped on the word, people are going to be like, oh, but you said you don't like the word self-improvement. But I mean, it's just like sometimes you have to use the words and meet people where they're at, and the terms they've already heard of and the categories that people already made, because this is relevant to people who use the word self-improvement and want to watch self-improvement content. But hey, what do I know? I'm just someone on this journey of life together with you, whoever is listening to this, also confused and lost about the exact direction, worrying about the economic situation of the country right now and my ability to, sustain a comfortable life with a family in the future, just like many people. And that just exemplifies my point I made earlier of how we can share things from personal experience in a more authentic way that you would to a friend, that's where I believe every person has value to share and the ability to create if you so want to, because you don't have to be an expert in something, because I'm not an expert in whatever the heck I talk about. I just share things that I hope will be helpful to someone who might be searching for some way to think about something that's comforting or reassuring, or some way of thinking that I used on my journey that worked for myself that could be helpful and empowering. And just the fact that it worked for myself, maybe that just adds some validity, right? But there's no like right way to do something, no right way to think about things. It's just, I think, even hearing about someone who did struggle through things and did come out of it achieving some things, leveling up, as they say, and really, I think, making my parents and family proud and being able to help them out a little bit, and make them really happy for the work they put in to my sister and me. So I think that at least shows something. That was a long sentence, so I kind of forgot what I said in the beginning of the sentence, so I'm not sure if that sentence made sense. But yeah, just if you're listening out there, you have your own experiences, you have your own value, which means that you are honestly in a space, you're in a spot to inspire yourself, because you have no doubt gotten through some tough times when you didn't think you could get through it. And thus the value of, being a creator. And the good thing about social media is we're able to share those stories from our personal point of view, instead of saying this is the general end-all be-all magical solution to something. But unfortunately, that's the kind of thing that doesn't sell well. People like the definitive, extreme, one-size-fits-all answer that they can kind of believe in. And it's easier to market as well. It's really hard to market something with nuance and give caveats and other explanations. And at the end of the day, say, well, you know what? You are the expert too, and you should be your own coach and also believe in what you know. But yeah, I suppose you can think of people as mentors or, again, inspiration for, I do look up to some people for what they did. I don't look up to the whole person because I don't know the whole person. But as far as what I can see from them, I can admire them for some ways and learn from their journeys, especially people who are more experienced and older. That is my 2 cents, the way I think about things that somehow helped me get where I am today, and everyone's backgrounds are different, but yeah, I hope this voice memo was somehow somewhat coherent, and I'm starving now. I really sometimes prioritize just getting my thoughts out, otherwise I'm going to go crazy and be like, oh no, I lost that thought, and it's time to make some dinner. Thank you so much for listening to the voice memo. Let me know what your thoughts are about me using this voice memo as a podcast episode, whether there was still value, insights, anything that resonated with you. I hope that it was slightly mind-blowing, because I was slightly mind-blown myself when recording it. Just like, oh, I realized why I was excelling in life and school without ever focusing on the notion of self-improvement. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts, so comment what struck a chord with you. And remember, it's not about how much advice you go through, but it's about how much advice goes through you. Please remember to like and share and rate this podcast 5 stars. It helps me so much to continue doing this for you all. And happy Lunar New Year and Year of the Snake. Wishing you all the best of prosperity, luck, fortune, and love. Bye!